I can't change that person, but where is my accountability? What role am I playing in this whole scenario?
Hey, welcome to this Friday Live. Hope you're having an incredible week. And regardless of where you find yourself, I hope that you are taking some time to think ahead to how you can give to yourself this weekend, whether it is time, whether it is just the ability to slow down and to ask yourself, did I love everything that happened this week? And those things that maybe you didn't love so much, what is in your ability to shift so that you have more of the things you love in your life and in your days? This is an invitation that you get to give to yourself every day. And I invite you into it for the weekend. And so for today, I'm really excited to have my friend Angela Accomando on live as well. She's about to join us. And first, I'm just going to introduce her. She is someone that I met in an online businesswoman's entrepreneurial membership number of years ago. And she's actually been on the podcast. So I'll have to link her episode to the podcast where we were chatting. You can hear more about her story and some of the incredible things she does. She is a chef and a mentor. And I'm telling you, I just love every time we connect. We go deep on a variety of different things that really are all about living the essence of how you're meant to show up in this world for you. So thrilled for this conversation that we're going to be having that really stems about, it stems into trusting yourself, some of the things that we've been talking about. Here she is with her fabulous hair. I just love it so much. always.
I was going to say, here I am, big hair from New York, ready to talk. All the big stuff that has been happening in my life that is difficult.
Yeah. A lot of surrender going on over there, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Painful surrender, but much needed. And, I was just talking to a friend yesterday about, how the lessons, at least for me, right, they don't end. They just expand you more.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So Angela, what I always love, when I think of New York, I think of you. I have a number of friends in New York. There's something about this, you run a restaurant, you own a restaurant and you cater and you do all of these things and so I think New York and food, they go hand in hand.
For sure.
Tell us, shout out your business.
I prepare thousands of meals every month to non-for-profit organizations in the city, feeding people who struggle with addiction. So, and that was another thing that I really resisted, right? Because I was like, no, I do this kind of food. This is what I do. I can't produce this, and they were like, well, can you just do it for a little while? And I was like, sure. And it's been the most rewarding thing. And it's growing, and I've had the most growth ever in my life. And so it kind of takes the two things that I love, like feeding people and social justice, and put it together.
Yeah.
And, so one of the things, that I've really been working on is when these outside situations come.
Yeah.
To not allow it to stop me with the amazing stuff that I'm doing in my business.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what has been happening the last couple of weeks. It's been really deep for me because I keep saying, Stephen Pressfield says it, when you're on the verge of greatness, right? And you're working on your stuff, there is a force that will come against you. And that is what has been happening. And I've had to just say, that's what it is. And how am I going to handle this?
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I've done, I actually see my good friend Conchitina's on here. She is somebody that I have called in the last couple of weeks. And I think that's so important, is when you're going through hard stuff, I always find myself, she is one of my callers, right? Because she has a lot of wisdom. And I usually, for me, what happens is, I've learned to kind of stay with my breath, right? A situation arises, I learn to stay with my breath and be able to just stay calm so I'm not so reactive. But then I always see that there's a part of me that wants to hop in the loop, right? Hop in the loop of the old ways of panicking and what am I going to do? But I'm able to catch it with the awareness and say, okay, right now, this is a big emotion for me. It's a big thing. What am I going to do with this? Who am I going to call? So I called my friend Conchatina that's on here right now, who's an amazing woman. If you want a sound healing that will change your life, she is the person to go to, and she does it virtually. So I'm just want to put that out there.
Yay!
Yeah. And I always have to be prepared, right? Because it's like, it's nice and relaxing, but then after that, it's like, boom. And I'm like, okay, universe, right? But so I call on my people to say, hey, I've got this big thing and it has shaken me. Mm-hmm. And what advice can you offer me? And, I'll just share a little bit without getting into too many details, but I have a child. I have 4 children and 3 of them are adults and one of them is going to be 12. And when your children become adults, it is a whole other different kind of parenting, because if you think that you don't have control over them when they're young, get yourself ready for when they become adults, because you really have no control, right?
Yeah.
At all.
My son, Dante, turned 18 today.
Happy birthday, Dante.
It's so, there is that element of you can't control. And I, releasing control once even when they're little, like it's something I consciously did. When I remember there was something happened initially when I was pregnant with Dante, like when I first found out I was pregnant, we weren't sure if it was viable. And so at that point in time, I was like, and of course, we can say these things, but then actually living it out, right? But I was like, God, this child's yours. And I'm just here. And whatever is meant to happen. But I felt a deep sense of peace. And so it's like daily, it's like giving our lives to the surrender of trusting. And I wanted to say it because I want you to go on and share some of the things that have been happening, but at first I wanted to celebrate you for taking action on that thing that you were feeling resistance against. Because I remember when you first had that seed of an idea and you're like, I really feel led to do this and to shift my business. And I pop in and see you on stories on Instagram here and there, but I miss a lot because I'm not like, I'm just not on it all the time and like in the stories all the time. And so I was like so celebrating that you made that happen. And I didn't realize you would completely shut down the other restaurants. So how amazing. And you, through the process, all these different things, you've been working on a variety of different projects, like a cookbook, all these different things. And what has been life-giving for me, and I know for your people and anyone who's been watching you, is to see you following the divine nudges, moving forward, and being honest about the process of what it takes to go through it. And to say, well, actually, maybe this isn't the thing. Yeah. And how I'm feeling about it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because too often, especially on this beautiful little smartphone, we see people who are, just showing up, look, and it all works out. Ta-da! Yes. Reveal. And I mean, come on. We know there's a behind the scenes. So thank you for showing the behind the scenes. Yeah. And I'm celebrating you for all of it.
Thank you.
And so I know you've been through a lot and are in a lot right now. So now please share the surrender of children and what you're going through.
Yeah. So it's one of my children. I've been going around this mountain and she struggles with mental health issues and doesn't want to get help, and addiction, and doesn't want to get help for that, and is in a lot of trouble right now. And it is painful. I just want to say, to watch this, right? But I've had to really realize and be honest with, am I helping a situation or am I hurting it? And do I need to let go and allow this child of mine to be on her journey? And a lot of times, I'm going to be honest, the reason why we don't allow this is because we're trying to escape our own discomfort. Let me catch all the balls in the airs because it's too uncomfortable for me to allow the balls to drop and feel the discomfort and see the other person's pain. And what I've learned through just working with different healers is it's because I have a hard time sitting with my own pain. And I had gone to a retreat at Miraval and worked with the horses. I love the horses over there. It's amazing. And one of the leaders in that had said that to me and said, brought me up and said, this horse is your pain. We worked through some stuff, in my childhood. How did that make you feel? And I've always been this person who's like, here's my big smile and let's just be happy, right? And happiness is great, but so is sadness and so is grief and so is anger and everything in between. And, it wasn't until my oldest son, you probably don't know this either, but you may know, my oldest son was diagnosed with cancer last year.
Yes, I do.
And there was no, I'm going to bypass these emotions and be happy. Like I was in bed, distraught for a whole weekend. And I went to a very low place. But that's when I had this realization of, and I, Angela, this is why you're either always super happy or angry at something, because I always find something to be angry at. And there are plenty of things to be angry about in the world, right? Because that low point, because when I was at that low point, it reminded me of growing up and being at the low points when I was suicidal.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's when I had this big realization. That's why you don't like to go to that low point, Angela, because you get really low. It gets really dark, but sometimes we have to be there, right? And sit with that and go, hi, darkness. Come over here. I'm with you. I'm going to sit with you. Wow, I really don't like it. It is uncomfortable. And many years ago, I used to go to this therapist who's also, I call it kind of like a spiritual therapist. And she said to me, oh, the reason why you're always angry is because it energizes you like happiness. And I was so triggered by her saying that. And I left like, what is she talking about? No, that's not why I'm angry.
And then you got mad.
And then I got mad. Right? And it wasn't until this summer when I was at that low point that I was like, oh, Janet was right. I wasn't ready to hear that then. But anger and happiness both kept me at this place of up here, so I didn't feel down here.
Activate.
Yeah.
It's an activation because you don't want to be stagnant because you are afraid of what will happen if you are, because you had that experience.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So I've been doing IFS work, internal family systems, which I wish the whole world would do this work because we would live in a much different world. Yeah. Right? So I've learned to really make friends, and I'm still making friends with all these different parts of myself. I name them all Barbie parts, like Drill Sergeant Barbie, Mean Girl Barbie, Beach Barbie that doesn't want to do anything, right? My friend Tiffany named one Get Shit Done Barbie, okay? And I've learned to be able to recognize when these different aspects of myself arise, or when they're taking over too much, and have conversations with them like, okay, so what's really going on here and what's behind that? Is it fear? Is it... So this week, last week I panicked with what was going on. I reached out to my girlfriend Conchatina. I reached out to my dear friend Molly, who has so much wisdom. And even my friend Axel had happened to call me, and I said, this is what I'm going through. And he said to me, she's not a kid anymore. She's an adult, and this really isn't your problem. And but you know what? I always attract, probably because I'm that straightforward a person, I always attract very straightforward people.
You know what? It's a gift.
It is.
Gift to have. Like, just give it to me. Don't sugarcoat it.
That's right. Because you're going to just get to it faster. Yeah. It's like, that's right. Like, let me just hear it. And I said, my friend Connie basically said the same thing to me, like, you have no control over this, and so I had to step away. And in that stepping away and setting boundaries, I also had to sit with the discomfort of, I don't like this. I am going to choose this because I know that's what's best. All of this enabling and running to is not helping because the situation keeps coming and coming and coming. And I also know that my biggest like aha moments happened when I really hit rock bottom. And here's the other truth that I had to sit with. There are people that I know in my own life that you would have thought hit rock bottom, but it still isn't rock bottom. And there are people that hit rock bottom over and over and over again, right? And they'll still continue to do the things they're doing, right? So I also had to sit with, don't also put this story in your head of, well, she'll hit rock bottom and then she'll learn and everything will be okay, because that may also not happen.
Right.
Because we tell ourselves all, like, it's so interesting how our minds just create these stories, right? To trick us.
We're trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
We're trying to say, well, making excuses for people or rationalizing things so that it takes the sting off. We all do it in some regard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what a powerful recognition. Yeah. I see you are so, like, now it's like there's not just the happy and the angry or activated. You're activated in a different way now. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's like a sense of real mission purpose coming through a third kind of activation for you right now that I mean, your words and what you're sharing right now is really speaking to my soul, because I'm like, there's circumstances in my life where I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm going to be remembering this conversation. I'm so glad that we followed our, intuition to say, hey, let's go live on Friday. It was very like, we were chatting everyone in our DMs. It's like, we haven't talked, like, let's just catch up live. So happy that we are doing this.
Yeah, me too. Because I know I'm not the only one. And when I shared, on my IG, I had so many women messaging me saying, oh my God, this really resonated. I struggle with this too, right? Because the patriarchy has taught us you're responsible for everybody's actions, everything. You have to catch the balls in the air. You have to do this. And that's not the truth. That's not the truth.
And you know what? It's very common for women, and it is also really the caretaker archetype, because I know men, good, very close friends who are very similar. Like, they take up that torch as well. And it's almost like an adaptation of protector. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, I'll figure this out. But it can really start to take over. Yeah. And it's so hard to disengage from and to not feel guilty about. Yeah. Like, guilt is that is a real tool of the patriarchy, right? Like, guilt.
Guilt, shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up about men, because it's true. My husband is actually one of the caretaker archetypes. And so through this, him and I have had very raw conversations of, Aunt, you're going to have to learn to sit with your discomfort around this, because this child of mine is not his child, but really is, I mean, he took care of her. I was divorced when, from her father at a very young age, and he loves her a lot and he means well, but I had to really say, we're not helping her. And one of my Buddhist teachers, Hector, whom I love to death, he said to me a long time ago, are you really helping? And again, I was very triggered, and I was like, he doesn't have kids and he's a man and he's not understanding, but he was right. And he was trying to tell me in a very honest way, and I just didn't want to hear it. And this isn't just with children or family. I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend, and she was talking about it with her business and clients that she serves, right? And really having to set boundaries or speak up, say things, let go of things. It's all of that. It's really speaking our truth, analyzing, seeing where we're self-abandoning.
Yes. Ooh, I'm seeing celebration fireworks.
I'm like, how did that happen?
Birthday, my son's birthday. Maybe that's why. You're right. And I think it's like, it impacts all areas of our life. And we're so familiar with it very often in our relationships. But taking it a step further now, I'd love to just talk about how do we adapt these things in relationships? And then also, like, how do you see it kind of connecting in with the business side? How do we create those boundaries?
Yeah.
How do we hold firm to them while keeping the relationship intact, but not abandoning yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I want to share that I would love everybody in the world to read Terry Cole's book, Boundary Boss.
Yes, this is awesome.
That book was life-changing for me. I actually listened to it on the way home from Miraval after I worked with the horses because I was left with all of this stuff. Like, I have no boundaries. I didn't even know what a boundary was, to be honest with you, right? And I was like 42 years old. That's sad. But I also realized I grew up in a boundaryless home and environment, right? Where people were constantly crossing boundaries.
Yeah.
So I listened to that book. I was like crying on the airplane because not only did I see where people crossed my boundaries, I saw where I crossed other people's boundaries and why they got upset. So I had a lot of aha moments. And then I came home and I was like, okay, now I read the book and now what? I need more. And then luckily she opened up her course, which is extremely, amazing and affordable and life-changing. And one of the things that she talks about in the book and in the course is scripts. So it's like, so that's the thing that I go to. There's a couple of things. Is one, really sitting with the discomfort, allowing the people around me to know, hey, I may be a little off. I may be a little irritable because I'm sitting with some really uncomfortable things because I want to do this because it's my old default. And I'm trying to relearn how to do something else that I don't want to do, that I've never done, and that I'm pushing myself to do, right? So that, and then I go to like the other day in my business, somebody called me up, and what I've been dealing with is people giving me advice on my business, but in a very like masculine, you need to do this and this and this and this, that I don't appreciate. And so I had to reflect on, what I need to do. And like, okay, when that person calls again, what is my script? Or if I'm in front of them, what is my script going to be that I'm able to set a boundary and say, hey, thank you so much, but I'm feeling overwhelmed by this. I know that you mean well by it, but I really would like to change the subject. I'm still working on the script, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but that's
it's
a great start.
Yes. So it's like working out scripts. And I had to do this with my child where it's like, look, I love you, but I am no longer going to support this type of behavior because it's really not helping you and you may not see it now, but I wish you well. This is what I will do, right? This is what I won't do.
Yes. Oh, this setting the standard. It's setting the standard. Like every system, structure, family system, business system should have one. And unfortunately, we often will fall short of that because we just assume that everyone's going to have the best intentions and everybody's going to have a similar standard to us.
Yeah.
Right? We compare the world compared to how we see the world. But then we realize, everybody's kind of standard of excellence or standard of showing up or boundaries, it's all different.
Yes.
So when you set the expectation, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Yes.
So
and
that's so great.
That's what I've realized in a lot of things when I go back is the expectation, the lack of communication, and the clarity on my part, right? Of like, what is it? Right? Like I had given one of my children a car that I could have sold for like $7,000 or $8,000. And in my head, it was like, I'm giving you this car so you can do X, Y, and Z, right? Like get a job, get on your feet, do these things, blah, blah, blah. Well, I never said that. It stayed here. And people can't read my mind. So then I started feeling regretful and resentful for doing that. And I could have sold the car. And I had to take ownership because one of the things I'm working on is here's the situation. I can't change that person, but where is my accountability? What role am I playing in this whole scenario? What role is my part and how do I need to change that role?
That's a really powerful example too, because I think we can identify with that. We say, I'm going to do this, so that. And sometimes we don't even know we have an agenda.
Yes.
Right. And that's like, it's really checking in with that. Okay, I'm going to do something. Oh, wait, what's my
Yeah.
agenda? What am I to get out of this? And is that fair to the other
Yes.
person? Are they aware of it? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
is it fair? And B, maybe I ask them, is it okay for me to expect these things? Like, can we agree on an outcome here and an expectation? And then that is going to inform on the decision. But I think so often we just kind of want what we want. And we think, like you say, people can read our minds and they're just going to move forward and everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
And we move quickly. And I know I move really, really quickly with. And so for me, it is about stepping back, taking an assessment of really what's happening, and really taking into account, well, I can't assume what the other person is thinking. So maybe, like you say, getting into communication. We all can level up in that area, I'm sure. Oh my gosh, Angela, this is so great. I love, like, there's so many helpful pieces here. I almost feel like people should go back and listen from the beginning and like take some notes on a few things, like the book, the retreat center that you went to, and also just kind of some of these different kind of strategies that can help us have more peaceful weeks as we're dealing with things that are out of our control.
Yes. And can I also say something else? A lot of times we are doing, like, our actions are motivated and rooted in fear.
Yes.
I am so afraid if I don't do this and that'll happen. I'm afraid this, then that, and I do it even in my business. I did it recently at the end of last year, right? Somebody called me out of nowhere and said, hey, I know we talked about working together. Can you start doing 1,000 meals a day for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. Right. Cause that's the kind of catering I'm in now, like bulk food for people in need. When could you?
Out.
I know. Trust me, it freaked me out when I got the first phone call. Trust me, it freaked me out when I got the first phone call, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. And it was like, when can you start? And instead of stepping back and saying, I don't know, I'm actually in the hospital right now with my son getting cancer treatments. Can I call you back and think about this? I was like, I don't know. When do you need it? Well, can you start tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, sure. Because it was a fear. When I look back, it was a fear of, if I say no, am I going to lose this opportunity? Right?
Wow. Wow.
So it was like for a couple months we did it. And then when I was able to like settle down and ground myself and say, okay, this was all rooted in fear. I'm allowing another business to dictate how my business is run. And it's not how I want my business to run. I need to step back from this. It was funny because my husband, who is also my business partner, he was afraid to step back from it. And I was like, Aunt, you're moving in fear now. Just trust me on this, right? So it's really putting that fear part in check, because there's always going to be opportunities, and there's so many opportunities,
There are. And, I went through something similar over this past year, some different shifts and things, and realizing that the very thing, it's so funny, we need to coach ourselves sometimes. The very thing I coach women on, of simplifying the things that they're actually wanting in their life, I was falling into that. I was complicating things and adding on too many things. And then my time was getting crowded out. And so what ends up happening is you don't do anything as well as you would hope, or you do miss opportunities, or, there's so many different things. And so just to be able to have that reminder that you get to make decisions from a grounded place and have a script is really a simple way of doing that. So everybody who's watching, get on your scripts. Get writing those scripts, because they're only going to help you as you move forward. And then it allows you to also, when you're in your free time with yourself, you're not thinking about all these 8 million things that you need to do. No. I'll just use that script. Done. How relaxing is that? We've had so much, Angela.
Yes. Yeah. And I just want to plug Terry Cole again, because she has all kinds of little programs, big programs, and she always has scripts in her programs, and even in the book, and then you could also figure out what script works for you. But I never thought of a script, right? And it's like, yeah, this is all just a play. So get your scripts out.
Get your scripts out, get on that stage, and start acting out the life you love.
Yes. Yes.
Angela, I'm so happy that we got to connect here. And I'm too more excited because we're going to be seeing each other in Miami next week.
Oh, you're going to be there? Yes. Oh my God. This just made my day. I am so excited. We get to finally meet in person and hang.
I know. And isn't it hard to believe that the number of connections that you have with people around the world you've never actually seen in person, and then you meet them and you're like, oh wow, you're really tall, or oh yeah, I'm really tall. this has happened to me, I actually, well, Asha Frost. So
Yes.
she lives north of the city, like, about an hour and a half from me. And we'd been trying to get together. Finally, another friend, Alexandra, and I, Alexandra Hughes, we went to one of her award ceremonies in the fall, and we got to meet her. And Asha has said, I'm taller than people expect. I'm like, wow, you really are. And even more beautiful in person. And her, like, you know what though? That energy, that spirit that you get, like, from her, just when she speaks or even when she writes something in person, you feel it.
Yeah, I could
It
imagine.
is, it is incredible.
I
Yeah.
could imagine.
So
I'm
I
so
am so
excited you're
forward
going
to
to
it.
be there. I am so excited. I actually just joined Alessandra's monthly full moon circle that she's doing.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, we will catch up on the real when we're together. And
Yes.
meantime, enjoy just knowing that you're making the right decisions for
Thank you
yourself. Right?
for that. Yes.
It's all working out the way it must, and you get to feel good as it's happening by really
Yes.
trusting yourself.
Yes. That's when you know you're not self-abandoning,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sending you a huge hug, and I
Thank
think you'll
you.
know one in person soon.
Yes.
Thanks for
Okay.
watching, everybody, and listening. I'm going to send this onto the podcast soon as well. I really would love for whoever has been watching or listening, pop something in the comments, DM, follow, and also, like, subscribe to the Connect with Sheila Botello podcast if you want to listen to various other episodes. I'm going to add a link to Angela's podcast that we did a while ago, sharing more about her story that is so incredibly inspiring. And I look forward to continuing the conversation.